Okay. So you guys asked for it. We're doing a deep dive on age gap romances in BL dramas.
Mm,
So we're going to be exploring like everything from, student teacher relationships to couples where like one partner's a ghost or like lived for thousands of years.
thousands of years. Okay, that's a significant age gap.
Right. Like talk about a power imbalance.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm really curious to see how these dramas handle that.
Me too. And I think that's what makes this whole trope so fascinating. It's like you're dealing with these already intense feelings of like first love and desire.
Right,
But then
right.
you add in this whole other layer of like maybe one partner has way more experience or there are these societal expectations or even supernatural
It's
elements.
like all the ingredients for some seriously compelling drama.
Exactly. And this list does not disappoint. Like right off the bat, you've got the novelist or pornographer.
The title alone has my attention.
Right. And it totally delivers. It's about this student who starts working for an older, more experienced erotic novelist.
Oh, wow. So they're playing with those classic power dynamics.
Totally. Like, is it about the writing or is something more brewing beneath the surface?
Right. It makes you wonder.
Okay, but then you've got Bite Me, which takes a totally different approach.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So it's a slow burn romance between this chef and the guy who delivers his takeout.
Interesting.
But here's the catch. The younger guy is also like a really talented cook.
Oh, so there's this mentor-student element to it.
Exactly. And you can see how easily those lines could get blurred, especially in the close quarters of a kitchen.
Definitely adds a whole other layer of tension to the mix.
Right. Okay, but are you ready for this? Her doctor, I'm coming for soul.
Okay, that's a mouthful of a title. What's it about?
So it's a romance between a human and a Grim Reaper.
Whoa. Okay, now that's an age gap.
Right.
Talk about forbidden love.
Like Romeo and Juliet on steroids.
And that's what's so intriguing about these age gap romances in BL dramas.
Totally.
They often tap into these universal themes of forbidden love, of overcoming seemingly insurmountable obstacles for the sake of connection.
It's like the drama is baked in. But you mentioned earlier that this trope can be especially complex within the BL genre.
Oh, absolutely.
What did you mean by that?
Well, BL often explores themes of consent, power dynamics, and societal expectations in relationships.
Mm.
When you add an age gap into the mix, those themes become even more layered.
It's like all those things we were just talking about get amplified, right?
Exactly.
Because we're already talking about like power imbalances and societal expectations in BL in general.
Right.
But then when you add in a significant age gap on top of that,
But it just adds this whole other layer of complexity.
right. And some of these dramas really go there.
Oh, yeah.
Like we've talked about Forbidden Love,
Mm-hmm.
but Guardian takes it to a whole new level. This is a romance that spans over 10,000 years.
10,000. Wow. Okay, so you're not just talking about a generation gap here.
Right. It's like a whole different scale of time.
It really makes you think about how love and relationships work over such a vast time scale.
Totally. Like, how do you even portray that on screen?
Right. Do you use flashbacks?
Yeah.
Time jumps?
Or do they just like fast forward through the centuries?
Exactly. And how does someone who's lived for thousands of years even process emotions the same way we do?
It's mind-boggling to even think about.
It is. It really raises some fascinating questions about the nature of love and time itself.
Okay, so Guardian is 10,000 years,
Mm-hmm.
but the director who buys me dinner has got a 400-year-old director searching for his reincarnated love.
Okay, so reincarnation is a popular trope in these age gap romances.
It seems like it, and I get it. It's like this built-in way to have these epic love stories.
Right. It's like their love transcends lifetimes, which is a pretty powerful concept.
No kidding.
What?
But it also creates some interesting dramatic tension.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're destined to be together, how do you actually find each other across multiple lifetimes?
And what happens if one of you doesn't remember the past?
Oh, that's a good question. It's like a whole new level of will they, won't they?
Right. It's like the ultimate test of love.
And I think that's part of what draws us to these stories, right?
Totally. The idea that love can conquer anything, even time and death.
Exactly. It's romantic and epic and just a little bit escapist.
Okay, but you know what's interesting about this list? It's not all just fantasy and fluff.
Right. Some of these dramas are tackling some really serious issues.
Yeah, like Rebel.
Oh, yeah, with the student activist and the police officer,
That's a recipe for some serious drama right there.
especially in the current political climate.
For real. And then you've got Light, which deals with sex trafficking and trauma.
That's a really heavy topic. I'm curious to see how they handle that sensitively.
Me too. But it's important that these dramas aren't afraid to go there.
I agree. It shows that the BL genre is maturing and that it can be a platform for telling all sorts of stories, not just lighthearted romances.
Exactly. But I'm curious, what do you think draws viewers to these darker, more intense age gap stories?
Hmm. Well, I think there's something about the age gap itself that can make these difficult topics a little more approachable.
How so?
Well, think about it. When you have an older, more experienced character guiding a younger character through something traumatic, it can create this sense of hope and resilience.
That's a good point. It's like the younger character has someone to lean on, someone who's been there before.
Exactly. And I think that can be really comforting to watch, especially if you're going through something similar in your own life.
It's like a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope for healing and connection.
And I think that's something we can all relate to, regardless of our age or experience.
It's like having a guide or a mentor to help you navigate those tough times.
Right. And it's not just about the tough times either.
Oh, yeah. What were you going to say?
Well, think about the mentor-mentee relationships we were talking about earlier.
Like in Bite Me with the Chef.
Exactly. There's obviously a power imbalance there at the start.
Mm-hmm. Because of the age difference and the whole mentor thing.
Right. But as the younger guy learns and grows, that dynamic can shift.
Okay, he starts to come into his own.
And it becomes less about one person having all the power and more about a true partnership.
I like that. A meeting of minds as much as hearts.
Exactly. And that kind of evolution can be really satisfying to watch.
Totally. It's like you get to see both characters grow and change over time.
And that's something we haven't really touched on yet. The idea that love can be a catalyst for personal growth.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Right. Like sometimes having a partner who challenges you, who pushes you to be your best self, can be an incredible experience.
Even if they are a few centuries older than you.
Hey, no judgment here.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really powerful message, regardless of what kind of romance you're into.
Totally. It's about finding someone who sees your potential.
Exactly. And who encourages you to step into it.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have. From student-teacher romances to literal Grim Reapers.
It's been a wild ride, but I'm curious, where do you see this trope going in the future?
That's a great question. I think as BL dramas continue to gain popularity, we're going to see even more diverse and nuanced portrayals of age gap relationships.
I hope so, because there's still so much to explore.
Absolutely. And as the genre evolves, I think it's important to remember that these stories, even when they're fantastical or taboo or a little bit out there, they all tap into that very human desire for connection.
They do. And for love and acceptance and maybe even a little bit of excitement.
Exactly. And ultimately, I think that's why these age gap romances resonate with so many people.
They remind us that love can be found in the most unexpected places.
And that sometimes the most rewarding relationships are the ones that defy expectations.
Beautifully said. Well, on that note, I think we've earned ourselves a nice tall glass of something cold and refreshing.
Sounds good to me.
To all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of age gap BL romances.
And if you have any other topics you'd like us to dissect, hit us up on social